Hello, so this is a quick demo of the temper tool and includes topics like how to input your data and then what you can expect to see from the user interface. So I'll cover both of those things. So first we're here on the GitHub page, and there are actually instructions here to help you read in data to temper. It's fairly easy to get your data ready to go into the tool, but I'll walk you through that. So let's switch to my file explorer here. This is the code directory, and so you first see the index file. That's what you'll open later to actually launch the tool. CSS, JavaScript files, you can ignore those, but then here, this preprocessing directory, that's where you're going to need to edit one file. So the file you need to edit is this parse get temporal frequency .py file. There's only 3 things you need to edit, and those are these right here. So first, you're going to have to split your data into 2 groups. I'll talk to you a little bit later about how to structure those files, but you'll need to just give the location of where those files are. So for example, you can see I have these right here that are in the same directory as this, but you could give an absolute path if you wanted to as well. But so those are your 2 groups of files. I split my learners into high learners and low learners. So that's why I have those files. The data name, this is just so it displays properly on the website. And then this is also for the user interface. You might want to give your groups a name. It'll show up in the graphs, and it needs to be, I believe, 2-letter acronym, just so it displays properly. You might be able to get away with 3 letters. Or feel free to modify the code so you can do even more letters. Okay, so what do your log files have to actually look like? So let's open up one of these here. And so essentially, temper takes a list of log events that the student performs. You'll notice there's no timing information, and it's just one row after another is each separate log event in the order that they did them. The first thing at the top here is this row of equal sign that signifies that there's a new student below it. And so if we scroll down enough, you'll actually see eventually that there's going to be another row of equal sign, and so this would be the start of a new student. Alright, so let's go back up here. And as I was saying, each row is a log event, and you can choose what information you want to take from your log file and put here. My log files had 3 different types of events, and so I just separated them here with a period. You don't need to include the period. I found it was nice to have something spacing them. There's a few characters you can't have, like a dash, just because of how that log event is going to be used later in an ID in the HTML page. So yeah, each row raw log event, and then they're just one after the other. So that's what that looks like. Now, once you have your files in here properly formatted and everything specified in this file, you just need to run this file with Python 2. So right here we're in the preprocessing directory, and we'll just say Python parse get temporal frequencies, and I haven't hit run yet, but it runs very fast with this data set because it's small, but if you have a larger data set, it's slower. So here you'll actually see the times changing here once I start running it. You can see they're chugging right along. This just pre-processes all the frequencies for the raw log events. It makes it so if you have big data, those are all calculated and you can use the interface smoothly and no lengthy calculations have to be done. So now we can open up our index.html. You will have to do it with Firefox because Firefox allows you to load data slightly differently than some other browsers like Chrome do. So the first thing you see is the heat map panel here at the top. this gives you a broad sense of how the two different groups are performing. And so you'll see here we have our one group, which for us was low learners, and the other one is high learners. And so the colors indicate which group did that action more frequently on median. So just comparing the two medians, and the darker the hue means that group did it even more frequently. So across the left, these are the log events that we had defined previously. And then across the top are the different time slices of data. So this one means in the first 20% of interaction, how it was doing some calculation about how frequently those students are performing that event. So if you look right here, this means that high learners were performing this event moderately more frequently in the first 20% of interaction. Another cool thing you can do is click these and it'll actually sort the rows, and then you get groups of log events that were done more frequently by each group. And so we have our high learner group up here and our low learner group down here, and you can, of course, sort any of the columns. You can also sort rows, but that's probably less useful for you. So this is where we can start forming these hypotheses, and then we'll scroll on down to the merging here and visualization panels, start testing our hypotheses about which actions should be merged together. So if we look here, there's currently nothing under merged events, but our raw log events we have quite a few of. You'll notice there's actually a lot more here than there are up in the heat map panel, and that's because the heat map panel just looks at the top 50 where there was a difference. And so you'll notice here that a lot of these are white, meaning that students in both groups perform the same, or perform that action the same number of times. So just to avoid a large number of white rows, we truncate it and only show the top 50. So now let's go back down to the merging panel, and let's say you wanted to merge together some actions about the ammeter. And so in our case, the ammeter was something they could test their circuits with, because our log data was all about students building physics circuits. So we can start here and start typing to filter that list, and let's say we want to check all of them. Let's call this ammeter testing, and then you can click merge events and you'll see that it appears right down here. And so now that you have these merged events, you can visualize them. So we'll just check the box, click visualize over here, and the graph will pop up. You get the name at the top that you titled it, and then you'll see each action with a plus sign that you had merged together. And what is visualization actually showing? So essentially it's like a box plot over time. The dashed line here is the median, and then the shaded areas go out to the 25th and 75th percentile. The x-axis is the same as you saw in the heat map panel. They're time chunks, and then the y-axis is the percent of that log events out of all log events. So essentially like the proportion of times they did these log events out of all the log events. So this right here, the blue high learners, you see here, performed these actions 25% of the time. So it's actually a very significant amount. And then the shaded areas allow you to get more of a sense of the distribution of students. So it looks like quite a few of the high learners are actually performing this action more frequently than the low learners. But of course, there's a lot of overlap because, at least in our case, we're looking at how students are working with the system, and students behave fairly similarly. So one thing you can do with the visualization is you can visualize more than one at a time, and so that way it allows you to easily compare between two or more different ones. Another thing you can do is change the number of bins. So here we have 5, but let's say you wanted to look at maybe 10. You'll visualize that, and it splits it into 10 bins. And of course, you could also go all the way down to 1 bin. Oops. Of course, you have to check it before you click visualize. And so there you have it there. So if you just have one bin, the users actually look like they perform, users in the two groups look like they perform fairly similarly. So it can behoove you to try out multiple time chunks. And that concludes our demo. Thanks.